Okay, ready? Back in the lab as the 2023 NFL Draft for the Vikings is officially in the books. We'll run through each pick. We'll give you some player analysis on what your new Vikings roster now looks like heading into training camp, including a new quarterback two battle with the new BYU rookie, Jaren Hall, set to enter the thick of all the KOC fun. Go get your guys. That's the punchline. I got my guys, Luke Braun, host of Locked On Vikings on Twitter, at Luke Braun NFL. Sam Ekstrom, co-host of the Ron Johnson Show on Twitter, at Sam Ekstrom. Quick reminder, guys, before we get started, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook partner of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. All right, fellas, let's jump right in. Vikes start the day with day three picks, They do some wheeling and dealing. Kwesi trades back with the first pick from mid-fourth to the bottom. He gets the fifth-rounder back he originally gave away with that Jalen Reagor deal. So I think outside of swapping the Lions fourth for our third next year, I think the Vikings 2024 ammo is all but back to even, which kind of feels nice. But Luke, finally, they get on the clock in the fourth. They select Jay Ward, DB, LSU. And you got to use the term DB loosely with this kid. 13 games at safety, 6 at inside nickel, 4 on the boundary. Haven't done a deep dive into the film yet outside a game or two. But all the research you do when you look this stuff up, coaches, scouts, ranting and raving, he was the guy on that team that was the glue, that defense, I should say, on the defensive side of the ball, the leader, and someone who comes, it sounds like, very highly praised from a character and leadership standpoint. Your quick thoughts, your instant reaction, Vikes doubling down on DBs with their second and third picks at this point, and then going with a guy like Ward to, I mean, let's face it, get some much needed secondary help to start day three.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that makes you kind of have to forget about, well, is he a corner or is he a safety or is he an inside or an outside? He can do all of it. And that's part of the draw is now, well, my matchup needs a guy like this at outside corner. And then next week, your matchup needs a guy like that, at deep safety. And the next, being able to answer all of those questions with one roster spot has a lot of value. I think the reason he's available on day 3 is a discipline thing. Just getting too many flags. He is definitely a rangy guy, just kind of come out into the field and chase down a screenplay, that kind of thing. And he wants to light you up and he'll pop guys. And he got flagged a little bit for that, kind of doing the Sendejo thing a little bit too aggressively. So you have to probably chill him out a little bit on that. But otherwise, you get this versatile piece. And I think some defenses are afraid of I don't know where to put him. Put him anywhere.
Jared says he's the new Jaron Curse. Boy, would that be nice. Sure. I'll take that for sure. Why not? Sam, again, like yesterday, every draft fan out there going into this next day, they got a list of names written down that they were hoping Kwesi would target in the middle of the fourth. Then he trades back again for next year's ammo. I guess your thoughts on Ward, right? How he fits in the Flores defense, but also thoughts on the trade back, because after the Spielman era, there's still some lingering PTSD from fans anytime our GM starts to make moves on day 3. Jay Ward and the value of moving back.
Yeah, I think recouping at least a fifth for next year was important. Jay Ward was not someone I was particularly familiar with. And if you see an S next to his name, safety, you say to yourself, well, even if Smith retires, they've still got Bynum, they've still got Scene. Like, is he really going to have an impact? But on the day that Chandon Sullivan officially signs elsewhere with Pittsburgh, it is appropriate that they bring someone in who might have the skill set to play some nickel corner. I do have concerns about Jay Ward. His tackling numbers are not good. A lot of missed tackles at the college level. And for someone who's maybe a tad undersized in a very un-Jaron Curse kind of way, that is a little bit of a red flag for me. That 6'1", 190, okay, he's not the quote-unquote big nickel that you might like, but he is versatile. And a lot of the stuff you like about Jay Ward seems to be the intangibles, the leadership, the aggression, the ability to be versatile and play in multiple spots. All of that, I think, can be crafted with good coaching by Durante Jones and Brian Flores, and I don't think there's going to be necessarily pressure for him to play right away. So this is a good middle round piece, and maybe like a Caleb Evans, they'll find some sub packages for him or room for him to get on the field middle of the season and see what he can do.
Yeah, good middle round pick. You're totally right. These picks aren't splashy or fun or sexy necessarily, but it's the glue of the roster. And once you start to see all the picks stacked on top of one another, I think you finally start to see the entire vision Kwesi had. And I think even though they passed on quarterback in round one, Joey Porter, Deontay Banks sitting there, to see him double down in a super deep class with their very next two picks, I think that was something that they really needed to feel better about just this DB room in general heading into the summer. And I think just really at the end of the day, both guys fit what the Vikings needed for Brian Flores and what he specifically loves to do, which is getting into that dime package on third downs, where now you need some sort of combination of 6 solid DBs on the field in order to do the things that he wants to. And I got to say, I was already so curious about how Flores was going to use a guy like Cam Bynum, that third safety. But now you got 2 guys with safety cornerback flexibility. And on top of that, you got 3 safeties with Seen, Harry, and now Ward, who all kind of give you that in-the-box run support near the line of scrimmage. At least that's their play style at the end of the day. So can't wait for that second week of training camp already when we start to see what Flores' sub-packages start to look like on that side of the ball. All right, that's 1 pick down, 3 to go. Before we get to the next one, don't forget, we're presented by FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Locked On, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Get on all the action at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. And remember, if you're a new customer, try out the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Download the easy to use FanDuel app and get your winnings instantly. Money lines, parlays, prop bets. FanDuel's got everything you need to close out the NBA season's final stretch. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Locked On. All right, guys. So Kwesi goes to USC Trojans with the first 2 picks. Then he comes back with his next 2 picks, and he goes back-to-back LSU Tigers, Ward, and then defensive tackle Jaquelin Roy. Now, I totally get it. Let's temper the expectations, pump the brakes, but you get into midday 3, and this is where I always get a little jacked up, because if they land a guy that I've heard of, let alone watch some tape on, I kind of get jacked up. Jaquelin Roy was a guy I watched and I low-key kind of liked when he was in the middle of that LSU defensive line. Strong, powerful, great anchor, even flashed a little bit of pass rushing skills as well. Now, only started 1 year, super raw, but I don't know, pull me back from the ledge here, guys. Am I nuts to think he may have starting potential 2-3 years down the road? What do you think, Sam?
Well, this is a guy who, and I don't want to suffer from never heard of him syndrome, because while you watched tape, I didn't know anything about Jaquelin Roy. So I immediately look up his testing. Awful testing.
Not athletic.
No.
Strength, strong, power, anchor. That's kind of his
right
thing.
And he's a big interior lineman. I don't care if he runs a 4.17 40. That's fine. His bench was very good, so he's strong. Not super agile, not super explosive in the testing, but I can look past that. He did do some serious damage at times at LSU. I did note that a lot of it seemed to be against non-conference teams. That is worth noting. But when you're playing in the SEC week in, week out, you're going to get some good matchups. So I think that Kwesi kind of seems to like these Blue Bloods guys. I mean, we saw Georgia in the first round last year, USC double up, LSU double up. We might be seeing a trend develop here with the GM, but the relative athletic score is not good. But, the versatility seems to be the name of the game a little bit in this draft. You've got, a safety in Ward who can play all over the place. You've got this defensive tackle who can play a little nose, play in the B gap. I think he can probably play inside, outside in the 3-4. So they're getting guys that can do multiple things, and that's just another nice piece for Brian Flores.
Yeah, Luke, once Dalvin Tomlinson left over to Cleveland, got the bag, good for him, gonna miss you. I was worried. A lot of people were worried, man, should we rebuild this thing from the ground up and start in the defensive line? They wait a little bit and grab somebody again on day 3 in round 4. Your thoughts on Roy? Just, I guess, the overall confidence level of this new defensive line rotation. Did they do enough, right, to kind of help ease the concerns here for fans? I know it's early, but just top of your head, maybe who's the 3 or 4 starters and the guys backing them up?
Right, and it's tough with this. Flores defense is going to have everybody in at some level, and so it's kind of who is a starter and who's a backup. Maybe you have a threshold of snap counts or whatever. But if you looked at the roster headed in, I think they had about one shy of a complete edge room, and by complete, I just mean by pure numbers. They've got enough to go into camp, or as many as you usually go into camp with. I think they were one short of that, and one short of that on interior guys. And this is an interior guy. He's going to play that kind of defensive end where like Armand Watts was, or like where Dean Lowry will be, that kind of position on the 3-4. I think if you're worried about that group going in, it's okay to be worried about that group, but I don't know if I would expect another addition unless we see a subtraction, like Zadarius Smith getting traded or something like that. But for Roy himself, I think it's Jaquelin Roy. Which is perfect.
Okay, I've heard multiple.
Yeah. Gotta pronounce
I went with the last one I heard.
Isn't that straight out of Key and Peele sketch?
Almost exactly from the Key and the Key and Peele sketch.
So good.
Yeah, big, strong, and uses his hands really well. So there is this kind of quickness, this vibe of a quick guy on tape, even though he didn't test quick. That's usually like lower body quickness, not upper body quickness. And he can kind of manage to split double teams that way and really be productive. But the change of direction, agility, the way that he tested, that's poor, that really shows up on tape. So that's kind of the reason you're getting him in the 5th round.
Yeah, no doubt. Defensive line, certainly not the strong suit by any means on this roster, but all of a sudden between, I think Davenport, maybe him kicking around with his hand in the dirt, guys like Dean Lowry, Ross Blacklaw, you got Roy in the middle anyways now, soaking up some blocks, and even some young flyers right next to him, guys like Asese. Don't count out Kenny Willekes yet either. It just feels like Brian Flores has enough, not a surplus, not a whole room of riches by any means, but he's got enough big bodies now to at least play his game up front, get teams into 3rd and long passing situations where he can really start to work his magic on dime defense. That's for sure. They needed some beef, guys, especially after losing Dalvin, and I think they got it with Roy, even if it does take him half the season or longer to really get him to where he's a full-time contributor. Okay, now we get into the fun ones. Kwesi goes offense, bang, bang with his final 2 picks. Let's talk about our newest quarterback too, Jaren Hall from BYU. Luke, we both really like this guy. Baseball background, 5-year starter, and some serious mobility when the play breaks down. What did you like about Jaren Hall's tape from what you saw? And why do you think he fits so well with Kevin O'Connell specifically?
Yeah. So BYU's offense has a lot of the same DNA as a McVay style offense. You see a lot of dagger, you see a lot of keepers and rollouts and stuff. So he comes in like with the mechanics and techniques that you need to know, just the body stuff of how to, go fake a play action, turn your body around, get your eyes downfield. If you're running like a spread, an air raid or something like that, it's going to be a little bit harder to learn that just physically and drill that. It'll be part of your development curve. That's not part of his. And you need a short development curve because this dude's 25 coming out, or he's like 2 months younger than Hendon Hooker, and how much was made about his age, right? A part of that for Hall was he did a mission because BYU did the Mormon mission thing. So that's part of it, that he actually did have like a gap year. But at BYU, the degree of difficulty of all of that stuff is so high. It's so difficult to ask him to do, a dovetail, drop back, make a throw from the opposite hash to the sideline, down the field. He was not doing, gimme layup plays. Every throw was really hard. Pressure in his face. Receivers not doing what he needed to. Tight windows all the time. Nobody separating. He just lived constantly on hard mode, and being able to still get production and, find the plays is really what was most encouraging to me. That's why I had him at QB5. He did stuff that fits the Vikings, stuff that was hard. And you can tell, he plays like a guy that's got 4 years of experience. He doesn't look like somebody that, he needs a redshirt year and he needs to learn this and that and this and that. He's just a little reckless. He has some really ugly interceptions, and maybe you got to chill him out on that a little bit, or just let him, get better calibrated where what he can and can't get away with. But in the 5th round, if that's the blemish we're talking about, I'm ecstatic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, 5th round, who's kidding who? No Andrew Luck's just sitting there for the taking. Sam, you knew eventually they'd take a shot on a quarterback. We've been talking about this for 3 months now. Is this enough for fans to get excited again after the failed Kellen Mond experience? experiment, and just, I guess, your early impressions from what you've seen from Jaren Hall.
Yeah, I think fans will take one look at this highlight reel and they'll be fired up. It's hard not to be, because he does stuff in every game that Kirk Cousins simply cannot do with his mobility. He is a special quarterback with some obvious red flags: age, injury proneness. And again, I guess you could knock the level of play that BYU faces. Not entirely, right? It's not awful, but you don't have the concern about Hendon Hooker that, oh, the offense was gimmicky. That you don't have that concern. This guy's got a big arm. He's got super good mobility. But another problem is he's small and he's gotten hurt. Like, there is an injury proneness to him with that slight frame. And when you've got slight frame, mobility, injury proneness, you're already 25, got a lot of mileage on you. You do worry how that plays. And again, he might not be even suiting up for the Vikings on a Sunday in the regular season until he's 26. Same thing that we talked about with Hooker. So there are reasons to tamper the expectations a little bit on Hall, but he could be electric. He could be really fun, and I love him as a backup. Like, if he usurps Nick Mullins this year, totally cool with that. I think training camp's going to be a lot of fun now to watch the twos, which we've basically never said going to training camp the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, whoa. Too soon, Sam. No, here's the deal, guy. End of the day, isn't this one of, there's many reasons, but isn't this one of the main reasons you hired a guy like Kevin O'Connell? Because he's so well-versed in evaluating quarterbacks. And it's one thing for Luke and I to like him on tape, but for KOC to sign off on him tells you enough that he was worth a day 3 pick and a possible bridge next year if they do move on from Kirk Cousins. All right, last pick, Vikings, Mr. Irrelevant. Not going to lie, I really like this guy. So just from a pure value perspective, I'm super pumped they grabbed him on day 3 with their last pick. But logistically, the minute they took Dwayne McBride, a running back, it officially put the writing on the wall. Dalvin Cook will not be back next season. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Luke, your thoughts on McBride, if you've watched him at all. What does he do different, I guess, than what we already have in Madison, Chandler, and Kene? And then thoughts on Dalvin's future now and when you think a move could get done.
Yeah, my understanding is that, there were reports about Dalvin getting cut before the draft. They're trying to trade him, whatever. I don't think he's a Viking. With McBride, balance through contact is the name of the game there. There's a lot of his highlights where somebody gets a square shot on his hips and just bounces off like a tennis ball. That's really great. A lot of forced missed tackles. I asked for this on Locked On Vikings just last night. Give me a running back that can make stuff happen in space, that can be elusive and screw a guy up, and that's who he is. He's available in the 7th round for a couple of reasons. One, top speed leaves something to be desired. He didn't do any testing. He was dealing with a hamstring, both combine and pro day, so you don't have that data, but you can see him get run down on tape. 2, fumbleitis. 9 fumbles in the last 2 years.
2 years.
That's a big issue. And the third thing is just no receiving tape at all. He's caught 5 passes in all of his college career. UAB just didn't throw to the running back. And I don't know if that's a UAB thing or a McBride thing. You probably have to ask him, figure out what he's capable of. But, when you're putting together a big board, that's going to be a ding.
Was injured off and on, like you said, fumbleitis. Don't know if he can catch. That means don't know if he can block either. The long speed isn't there. But besides all that, guys, I really do. The balance, the contact, some of the best balanced film and tape I've ever seen from a guy coming out of college was Kareem Hunt. I'm not saying he's Kareem Hunt by any means. Again, just listed a laundry list of things that, clearly makes him a late day 3 kind of guy. But when he's on and you get him on the field and he can clean up some of that stuff, there's a lot to like about him. At the next level. And I think especially in this rotation, Sam, I say it all the time, you should be using a day 3 pick on a running back every other year because you can always find some serviceable guys like this. You can grind down for 4 or 5 years and then just do it all over again. Vikes now have a deep stable at the position. Your thoughts on taking a running back, Dwayne McBride himself, and then the future of Dalvin. What's your 2 cents on Dalvin Cook's future too?
Yeah, well, this McBride guy, Luke talked about getting caught in the open field. He might be run down, but he is not brought down because he is 7th in college football in missed tackles forced and 2nd in yards after contact per attempt. So I'm willing to take a flyer in the 7th round on a guy like that. If you're keeping Dalvin, which I think we're trending toward a post-June 1 cut at this point, if there was no deal done prior, I think that there is financial benefit to waiting now. So if they've got some kind of, if they're not going to do a trade, which they should have done that before the draft if they were going to do it, now you wait for the post-June 1 cut. The numbers don't add up if you have Dalvin on this team, because then you've got Madison you're paying, and you've got Wongwu who's going to make it, and Chandler they love, and now McBride. So, and that's 5. You're not keeping 5. I think Dalvin is definitely a 90% gone. I just don't exactly know when or what form or fashion that's going to take.
All right, just to recap here, guys, after all the mock drafts, all the speculation, Vikes go wide receiver in round 1 with Addison, back-to-back DBs, Blackman and Ward, D-line with Big Boy Roy, as Mr. Couch has dubbed him in the comments. I love it. And then a running back, because why not, with McBride. Final thoughts, quick, 20, 30 seconds at most here. A draft grade for Kwesi in year 2. Sam, what do you think?
Hamstrung by the amount of picks that he had. TJ Hawkinson does have to be part of this equation. They got a very good player for that 2nd round pick, and not having a 2 hampers the grade significantly. If you're taking Hawkinson out of it, just looking at the players they got, I think this is a B. I really do think it's a B. You get positional value at quarterback, wide receiver, and cornerback. You get a player that can help your defensive line. I think that they got good players at areas of need, which is a nice intersection. So a solid B.
Luke Braun, draft grade, Kwesi, year 2.
I think I said this last year too. I am contractually forbidden from giving draft grades. I do not believe in that.
You're done.
But,
You're done.
Yeah.
Cut it.
No, but I'll give you an overall vibe here. I'm pretty happy. I could have been ecstatic if they had, pulled off a big trade up for Anthony Richardson or something like that. Maybe that was pie in the sky, but I like most of the picks. I don't know. I watch a whole bunch of tape and get back to you on really how I feel about it, but they adhered to their needs. They didn't go too crazy trying to get a big quantity of picks, and then they're all 7th rounders, They did some trading down. I think 6 picks is fine to walk away with here. I like Addison. I like the running back. I like the quarterback. That's probably enough for me. If those, you get 4 players out of this that stay on your team throughout the life of their rookie contract, you're probably happy with that draft. Yeah, well, that'll work.
Better grade no matter what than the Niners, who took a kicker, 3rd round, Jake Moody. Better be the next
Gotta let
Adam Vinatieri,
Shanahan
I think.
just do
Go
something weird every time he gets bored at the end.
And then they took another guy 2 picks later who has to live with the fact that the kicker was picked before him.
That's brutal. It's Michael Pruitt and Stephon Diggs all over again.
Yeah.
3 picks later.
And
why didn't you take Diggs first? What if he would have went? Hey, real quick.
Shanahan was like, we didn't think anyone else was a starter except the kicker. So we took the kicker because we knew he'd be a starter. Everybody after that has to now live with the fact that Shanahan's like, we think you're a backup.
That's the confidence booster that you want. Luke, any UDFAs before we head out of here that you're hoping Vikes go target still sitting on the board? Is it true Eli Ricks, Brightsford Wheaton, Andre Carter, they're all still on the board, maybe go undrafted?
We got an Illinois guy already reported by Aaron Wilson.
Nice.
Calvin Avery, the nose tackle out of Illinois, has already signed with the Vikings, which I believe he's not allowed to do yet into the draft, but I guess that's the report. Somebody could still draft him, I guess, and take him out, but that's one. Otherwise, looking at some of those corners, looking at a couple of wide receivers, they're still, I think, only 8 deep at both of those positions. They probably need more like 10 or 11 to be flush for camp drills. So probably looking at a couple of names there, and probably some guys on the offensive line too, to kind of fill out the 3s.
All right, there we have it, guys. Year 2 of Kwesi's draft officially in the books. Vikes get a developmental quarterback of the future on day 3. They go heavy defense for year 1 of Brian Flores. Rest assured, we'll be covering all the action on Monday. Make sure you check out Luke Braun on Locked On Vikings for all the latest. He's on Twitter at Luke Braun NFL. You get Sam and the Ron Johnson show, as well as the football party too on Monday, all up on the Locked On Sports Minnesota network. Follow Sam on Twitter at Sam Ekstrom. Until Monday, I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. signing out.